Hey, Steven. You know, they say that humor is the best medicine. So I got a few jokes here for you, and I hope they cheer you up. Okay, here's the first joke. A pair of jumper cables walk into a bar. The bartender looks at him and says, "You, I'll serve you, but don't start anything." So, people today, they're so judgmental. I can tell just by looking at them. Me, I've always been kind of indecisive. I used to be very indecisive. Now I'm not so sure. I'll tell you something though. No matter how hungry you get, don't eat a clock. Why? Because it's so time consuming. So my shrink, she said, "You're crazy." And I said, "I want a second opinion." She goes, "Okay, you're also ugly." So now when I go in, I got to lie face down on the couch. So I've been listening to this new songwriter, and I'm kind of getting bored with it. Why? Because she's always writing just songs about sewing machines. It's ridiculous. She's a total singer-songwriter. Speaking of creative people, though, did you know the guy who invented the Ferris wheel and the guy that invented the merry-go-round never met? Why? Because they traveled in different circles. So last week I went to hear a lecture by a physicist, and he's talking about all these things that influence the universe. Kind of boring. He's talking about antimatter and dark matter. And he finally gets to the real crux of the point, a new discovery. It's called doesn't matter. And it turns out it's the most powerful force of all. And I also read, this is something I read recently, a biologist grew human vocal cords in the lab. And I was kind of skeptical about that. And then he said, you know what? The results, they speak for themselves. So anyway, I heard about this old guy over to the nursing home. He was getting kind of lonely, and so he decided he's going to try to date one of the ladies. So he sort of struck up this relationship, and after about 3 hours, the old lady was like, "Yeah, talk to the hand, buddy." So then he's down at the other end of the lunchroom, and he's bragging to his pals, and he's like, "Yep, well, my girlfriend, she broke up with me. So I stole her walker, and guess who came crawling back?" You know, all the news these days, it's pretty tough. Communism. We knew from the beginning it was doomed. How? Because of all the red flags. But I gotta feel bad for the leaders like President Biden. I gotta feel bad for him. Being president, it's like running a cemetery. You got all these people underneath you, and no one's listening. So did you hear the one about the hippie polygamist? The hippie polygamist. How did he count his wives? I'll tell you. 1 Mrs. Hippie, 2 Mrs. Hippie, 3 Mrs. Hippie. Okay, so here's a question for you. What's the best thing about Switzerland? I don't know, but the flag's a big plus. So you probably know I'm involved with an auto shop up here in Seattle. And the other day, a witch came in with her broomstick and she said, "Could you guys put a seatbelt on this thing?" And we're like, "Why do you want a seatbelt on your broomstick?" She said, "So I don't fly off the handle." So then the other day, I went in to get some groceries. And I'm going by the entrance to the grocery store. It says, "No food and drink inside." So I left. But speaking of food, if you're ever making soup, the best thing to do is boil a funny bone. You know why? Because it makes laughing stock. All right, and here's the last joke I got for you. Nostalgia? It ain't what it used to be. We love you, and many, many regards, and we hope you're feeling better. And we have a lot of stories to share. My favorite, the latest Stephen story that's my favorite, is Matthew calls you and tells you we're going to clean your stuff out of the barn. And you swam to Chappie in a 95-mile-an-hour wind. A human torpedo right onto Bend in the Road Beach. That was awesome. There's just no comparison. That was world class. So anyway, thinking about you, and we'll come down and visit.